The band started a couple years ago. It was just us three in a room, and we were just jamming around, like messing around. And we saw enough potential in just us messing around that we decided to do something serious and actually give it a name and pour substance into it. Along the way, like, we added members and we included other people, but whether it was this or that, we felt like in some way, shape, or form we were being held back, or stuff. It just wasn't working. So at one point in time, we had like 3 guitar players, and then we went down to 2, and then now we only have 1 guitar player. And we had a vocalist, but it just didn't work out. So now we're just an instrumental band at the moment, and we've had a pretty fast 2 years being a band. It doesn't seem like it's been that long, even though in hindsight it's really not that long.
Back when we had lyrics, since we're instrumental, we don't really have any at the moment, but when we released Omnilarity, we had a whole, like, every song had lyrics. Some of them didn't work out, and most of them were okay. I wrote 1 or 2 songs on the CD. Pretty much what I talk about, because everyone writes, it's not just me, it's just that we all write about different things, or maybe we all write about the same thing but not in the same perspective. So I don't know about them, but when I write, I just like to be very kind of straight to the point. I don't dig the whole metaphorical thing too much. I'm just very straightforward. And when I write, like for Axiom, the reason why the song's called Axiom is because I look at my spiritual faith as something that's it's so like that God exists, that God is so obvious that it's just axiomatic. That it's something that it's so obvious, like there doesn't need to be an explanation for it. It's just, it is what it is, essentially.
On the very first body of music we released, it was a little demo, and I wrote half the songs and Brendan wrote the other half, like lyric-wise. And we're a faith-friendly band, and that's what we talk about a lot of the time. So I wrote songs about, conviction and personal, and how it affects me personally and in my personal life. And I think Brendan did the same. And then on Ameliorate, I wrote all the songs but 1 or 2, all the lyrics. And some songs had more like metaphorical, more metaphorical approach to them, and very mysterious, and the wordplay was very metal. But some other songs were just bare bones. This is exactly how I'm feeling at this time. And Ameliorate, lyrically and music-wise, was kind of a concept, or it embellished on that, on Ameliorate, that word. So the lyrics at the time kind of surrounded that, and we put out what we felt at that time when we were writing it. But with the loss of a singer, we're just instrumental right now, so the world will never see this.
Unfortunately. That's an interesting question. We haven't played very many shows in a while. Played one a couple weeks ago. Our shows are really either really great or really not great. Mm-hmm. And that's like time and area and how many people end up going to the show. It's really hard to get a poll for our kind of music, like widespread, at least when you're not super well known. So, no, there are shows when we have 60, 70 people there, and other shows when there are like 5. So it's really hit and miss. I'll start. I have a Fender Mustang 5 HD head, and I play through a 1980 some PV cab with 212s, and I just kind of mess with all the presets on there, so everything that you hear is from that. And as for guitars, in the demo I played a PRS SE Custom, and in Omnilarity I recorded with an Agile Interceptor Pro 828.
I probably play my Carvin. It's an LB A76, I believe.
Sure.
That's pretty much what I play. That's what I play all the time on Omnilarity. On our early stuff, I played like a still standard beginner's BC Rich bass. For sound, I just use like a really simple, cheap acoustic half stack, and I use some pedals here and there. I'll use chorus and stuff.
For me, it's when I actually would play a real organic drum set. It was a Ludwig drum set with I think it was a 6-piece, so it was a snare, a bass, and 4 toms. I used to play Zildjian cymbals, and then I switched from those to paste or pasty or whatever the heck you want to pronounce it. I really like those cymbals a lot better than the others. But that kit, I've had it for years and it doesn't sound as good as it used to. So I shifted over to an electronic set. It's just easier to record and to set up when you play live. It's just more convenient. Right now when we play shows, we try and save as much room as we possibly can. So a real drum set would be pretty detrimental to us because we wouldn't be able to pack as much. So
And would you have like all of the
I have all of the sounds, so I can just plug into the PA and it pretty much sounds almost perfect. You don't have to set up any mics for it. It is what it is. So I record and I perform on my Alesis DM10 electronic drum set, and on this drum set and on the drum set, the real drum set that I have, which is a Ludwig, by the way. I used Evans heads. I used to use Remo, but I think Remo is a good brand, but I break drum heads all the time, and I break those way more often than I would break Evans. I'm a really hard hitter, so I found that Evans was a lot better for me. They're more geared towards metal anyways. So I just use the clear EC2 coated drum heads, and sticks I really don't have a preference. I kind of just whatever. I like Vic Firth, Steve Gadd. I like Regal Tip, and the ones that I have right now that are like the most brand new are the ProMark by Diodario. Those are the ones that I use now. So
we get a lot of flack for electronic drum sets.
Yeah,
but it's really, really convenient.
Like when we show up and we take out our gear, people stare at us and they ask why. I've had people in big bands just tell me out of the blue why they prefer their drums over ours, over an electronic drum set.
Or that they would never play an electronic drum set for a live show.
I think it's kind of weird because you use people who play on real drum sets use like sample pads and they use triggers and stuff like that. And the guitars we use like pedals and axe effects,
Same thing.
and all that stuff. Like I don't know why drums get the bad rap for being electronic, but
I think everyone has a preference. If I could have a real drum set that sounded perfect and that we actually had room for in the car, I would use it. It's just that that's not where we are at right now, and it's just more convenient and it's quicker. Not saying it's better. It's just for right now, it's better for us right now since it's more convenient and it just allows us to do more. And I've had people that have said it's really interesting and they like it, and I guess it's always going to be that thing that's just gonna always be in the middle where people like it, people don't like it.
People.
Yeah, so
Like our shows.
But yeah, I mean, unless, I can understand, like, unless I'm cheating with it, where I'm putting, sometimes, like, like, I'll be honest, I'll put the sensitivity on my pads all the way up, but if I didn't, it wouldn't pick up a lot of my hits at all. Like, I play really fast. I play lots of really fast 30-second notes on all my pads, and if I didn't put it up all the way up, you wouldn't be able to hear all of them, or it wouldn't pick up all of them. Or when I play ghost notes, for example, it wouldn't pick up the ghost notes, so I always had to put it all the way up, because if I didn't do that, it wouldn't pick up my really quiet ghost notes, essentially. So
There are real drums on the album.
yeah, there are real drums that are like, they're interwoven on like every song except for 2, I think. But I think that was just to convey a sense of realism and organic sound. And
Axiom's all real drums.
no, I think it's Enigma. Enigma's all real drums. Yeah, that's the song that has all real drums. So there's a big difference in sound quality, and I'm still trying to learn how to mix and master. Obviously, I'm not 100% like.
Not the best.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sold on the CD. I think we could have done a lot of other things better, but again, it's the whole thing of progression and moving forward and getting better as time goes on. So
That in hindsight, after you realized, I should have done that.
yeah.
We get known as the band that has 8-string guitars and 6-string bass and electronic drum sets.
So it's pretty weird, but I think
We're fine
it's
with
okay.
that.
Yeah, we're fine being weird.
Probably I'll answer for this one.
I think we could, I think we mesh our sound so much to the point where I don't really think we really have like a one clear defined influence. But I'm sure there's like lots of bands that influence all of us, but like for me, like if I could name 3 off the top of my head, it would probably, and they're all for different reasons, they're all not for the same thing. Like I really like Sleepy Time Gorilla Museum just because of like how obscure they are and how they really just dwell away from the norm, and they use a lot of really bizarre sounds and noises, and they kind of create like soundscapes along with their music. So I really dig that about them. I think Becoming the Archetype, really, because I'm totally, like, I love that band, and I love how heavy they are, and I love how they can convey a lot of moods just with one song. And the third band, I'm trying to think. Honestly, the only thing I can think of off the top of my head right now is like Led Zeppelin for me, just because if it wasn't for John Bonham, I probably wouldn't play drums. So for like a year and a half straight, I listened to nothing but Led Zeppelin pretty much, like from the very first CD to the last CD. So those are the top 3 things for me, but they're all for different reasons.
I would say that, in all honesty, there's no band that influences the riffs I write or our sound, this band's sound as a whole. There's musicians that influence us to be better musicians and to try our hardest and to learn this and learn that. But to say that there's bands out there that were like, oh, that comes through so much through our music, that wouldn't be the truth.
Yeah.
Me personally, I feel like there's people who influence me to be better musicians, but that's just learning a scale here or there that doesn't influence on how I play it or where I play it. So this band's sound isn't influenced by anyone but us.
Yeah. Some of the things that made me want to get better at guitar, if anything, Sky Eats Airplane, Ever Forthright, recently Animals as Leaders.
Yeah, the new season.
They're pretty big influences on me musically, like especially for like the jazzy composition, which is something that Daniel and I typically write. Like any jazz that you hear is either him or I, pretty much. So that's very heavily influenced on me, and like even as a kid, grew up listening to Dave Matthews, all kinds of jazz music. So
We're kind of like our own genre in a sense, so that's the way I look at it, at least.
I guess our first show, like, technically, literally was like some backyard show we played in Chino, and it really, I'd like to say it was like memorable and it was like a great show, but personally it really wasn't. Like it was just like a bunch of bands from a genre that we're not in.
Yeah.
Like our friends' bands who play, different styles of music, and we pretty much played it just to hang out with friends and just to play with friends, not anything musically inclined or musically like representative. I think that's why our shows are so hit and miss, because we'll play shows that are strategically better for us and will fit in with other bands and stuff, and then we'll play shows where it's like, oh, these people asked us to and we might as well, or our friends are playing on this show, who cares if they're a different type of band, let's just do it. So our first show was just us hanging out with friends, watching our friends' bands play that sounded nothing like us.
Yeah. I think it was just out of the love of playing music and just how cathartic it is. Like, it's something that we purge ourselves into. We purge all of our emotions and our energy into it. And I mean, like, there's a reason for everything, and I think for what we do, I just honestly think for me, it's just something that's cathartic. Like, I can't, when I'm at work or when I'm at school or when I'm in the car driving home, like, I always get melodies in my head. And it's something that I don't ask for or I don't think about. Like, I'm doing something else, my mind's preoccupied on something else, and then a melody comes into my head and I'm like, oh, this would actually be really cool if we did this with it. And sometimes I really, like, it's almost feels like it's kind of like a part of me. Like, I feel like I have to do this just because just stuff comes to my head, so I always have to be like, okay, maybe this can work with this. And I think it kind of works out for me, at least. That's the way I view it.
And in all honesty, it's all selfish reasons. Like, for me, I just love music to a point to where it's all I do. Like, if I'm not at work, I'm just doing something that's involved with music. And to be in a band, like, there has to be you have to be some type of a selfish person. Like, I do this. I'd like to say, like, I joined this band, or we started this band so I could, like, spread a message, and which we do. We talk about certain things, but that's because I want to talk about them. And if you're gonna listen to this band, then it's because of that. I do it because this is for all selfish reasons. It may sound bad, but I play bass because I find enjoyment in it. I play in a band because I can pour myself wholeheartedly into it. And if people decide to watch, then that's just a bonus.
For me, we broke up last year for several months, and when I wasn't doing that, it was like one of the most depressing times of my life. And it's like those times when you realize what you had and what you actually need in life. And I've been in bands since I was in high school, and every time I wasn't in a band, it was the most difficult times in my life. So
it just becomes a want.
I crave it. I can't be not in a band.
Or at least making music in some sense.
It's like the value of my life diminishes significantly when I'm not doing music of some kind.
It's just a grind. People want to be workaholics. People want to be alcoholics, drug addicts, like whatever you're addicted to, whatever you want, whatever you push for. Like, if you're not doing that, it seems kind of pointless. Your life seems kind of pointless. And that's where I said, like, it's a selfish thing. Like, whether you want to be at work all day, it's because you want to do it. We do this because we want to do it. Like, it's a need, it's a want. It's a selfish want.
I personally love it. Honestly, I'm a big fan of downloading things, and we put out our album last week, and found out this weekend. It was like all over Russian sites and all kinds of other things. So
Downloaded like hundreds of times.
And people just seed it, and then they just keep putting it on other sites, and it just keeps growing.
seeing like blogs and all kinds of websites.
People
just
retweet it,
music.
people repost it, people share it.
I support that.
Yeah.
The pirating, like, people will say, oh, if it's art, and art's meant to be like respected and looked at a certain way, yet you charge people like $50 just to go see your art gallery. Like, me personally, I would never charge for any music that I create, because I'm not doing it to make money, and it's a selfish want for me, so why am I going to charge people for it? And it, like, people say that it hurts bands nowadays, and in a way it does, but
How else are you gonna get
yeah,
people that would never hear your music?
200 people will take a chance on a free download. 200 people won't take a chance at $9.99 to buy a CD.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of because some people are very underprivileged, so maybe they would like to listen, but if they see, oh, they have to pay this X amount of dollars to listen to it, like, they're not going to feel nearly as inclined as someone who is the same person, but it's free, and it's like, oh, okay, I can just do this. And for me, I think it's for, as of right now, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd like to make money off it. I like making music, and maybe make money off of like music that's for commercials and stuff like that, but as opposed to actual music, like, especially in the genre we're in, we're not going to make a lot of money selling CDs anyway, so it's almost kind of like it's kind of like when people go around and they pass out the New Testament or the Bible, they don't ask you for $1, like, they just willingly give it to you because that's what
They want you to have it.
yeah, it's kind of like that. There's no price that you can put on that. So I feel it's the same thing with the music. It's kind of like, well, the music should just be what it is, and it shouldn't, like, we shouldn't charge anybody for listening, to listen to what we have to offer.
It'd be great to be Metallica and rich, but that's not what I'm in this for.
Yeah.
You can get our CD on Bandcamp though, legally.
Yeah,
Or
legally
you can get
download it for free.
illegally. Either
Yeah.
way. As long as you hear it, I don't care.
Yeah,
I can get it.
I think that's the best way. It's just right now it's more about exposure than it's about money. So
I read everything.
yeah,
I just want everyone in the world to hear the CD.
yeah.
Well, like before, when we say we play with our, like, we'll do shows that people ask us to because it's a benefit, or we play with our friends' bands, like, whether they're the same music or not, playing with your friend's band's nice because you're playing with your friend. But, nah, you play shows with big bands, they don't talk to you. So, I would just say we probably enjoy it most when we're in a room with like-minded people, playing with like-minded musicians. We've done that once or twice.
Yeah.
It's like at least something that kind of sucks when you do play with bigger bands. It's like, you finally get on the show, and you're like lucky enough to get on the show because it's really hard to do. And then the bands that are successful, like, usually don't come out of the back room to see the other bands play, or like they don't really talk to the other bands. Like, sometimes they do, but a lot of times they don't. It's like, is where I'm concerned. Like, if you're in the music industry, you should try to support the music industry as much as possible. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I think with anything, there's stuff you like and stuff you don't like. And personally, I don't find a whole lot of enjoyment in like certain genres, whether it be this or that. But there's exceptions to everything. So you like what you like and you like what you don't like. If there's whole genres you don't like, then obviously you don't like that direction. If there's whole genres that you do like, then that's what blows your hair back. I think people forget that, personally, I feel there's no bad genre of metal there's just stuff you don't like and there's just stuff you're not into. Because I like metal. I like more metal genres than I dislike. So there's just some things that I don't like and some things that I do. I think a lot of things get bad raps for stupid reasons. Like, I'm pretty sure we'll get a bad rap just because we're a band that talks about faith and we're not stereotypical Satanists, whether you believe that or not, whether you believe in my God or not. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. Don't just discredit it because you split hairs.
Yeah. I think some genres take more, I would say skill. They take more skill to play or to learn. Other genres are a lot easier, and that's why a lot of young bands play certain genres, and a lot of bands who have older members typically play genres of music, whether it's metal or jazz or any other genre. Like, they'll play at a higher skill set since they've had. It's kind of like wine, where the more age that it has, the better it is. So it's kind of the same with people and with skill level. The longer you've been in the game and the more that you've played, the more skill you acquire through the years. And I think what we do is very much an acquired taste. Like, we don't really play one specific genre of metal, like, at all, and we really don't play one specific classification of music at all, to be honest. But I think those classifications need to be there because you wouldn't, if you were to talk to somebody that didn't know what metal was, or that didn't know what death metal was, or technical death metal, or progressive metal, or whatever, and they asked you, what genre do you guys play? And you say that, like, they won't understand that, and you have to explain it more, and you have to educate them on it, and that takes time and effort. And sometimes people don't like to stand for more than 20 seconds and hear you out. So, it's just easier to say, we're just metal, because then people kind of get the point. But I think those classifications need to be there, because if they weren't there, everything would essentially be the same genre, where it's not like that in the music world.
You definitely need to be there. Mm-hmm. It gives you direction where to look.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a song that I actually enjoy playing the most.
Yeah, I would second that. Yeah.
Yeah. We've only played 4 songs live off of Omnilarity, and at our last show we played the 3 new songs that
we played a whole entire EP and an entire unreleased EP.
Unreleased, yeah.
Yeah, unreleased EP. I'd be lying if I said that whatever our current body of music is my favorite. So I like playing those because that's where I'm at.
Whatever's newest.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. But from Omnilarity, I probably like playing. We've never played it live, but when we would rehearse the song Omnilarity, I really liked that song live. It was really simple, but it had emotion, a lot of emotion in it. So I liked that song, playing that song live.
Yeah.
And we close our set with Dissotype, so it's kind of like a signature at the very end. So
it's super emotional and emphatic.
It's
really big that way.
Yeah. So Dissotype from Omnilarity and at the moment the unreleased EP.
Yeah. For me, it's just making more music. I have when I'm too busy to be here with the band, and when we make music, or when I have extra time, I normally write other music. I normally write a lot of stuff for commercials. I like to write commercial music. I haven't done it yet, but I like doing that. I like to write orchestral cues and stuff like that, and I like to write electronica music. And I'm working on something right now that I'm going to put out eventually, but it's very bizarre electronic music. It's people would say IDM, I guess, but that's pretty much what I do. When I'm not doing this, I'm pretty much just writing other music, going to school, going to work, hanging out with friends, family, and just going to church. Really, that's pretty much my life. I'm a pretty simple person, really.
Pretty much for me and Brennan, like I could probably speak for him as well. If we're not at work, we're doing something with music. Whether it just be learning new scales, learning new licks here and there, or just thinking about it. Obviously we hang out with friends. We're not robots, but music is definitely 90% of our is where our effort goes.
If I'm not playing, I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like when I am at work, I walk around humming or singing music or thinking of the melodies and songs that I play or someone else plays. So it's the music always on my mind. We don't really have big moments yet. I think the biggest thing was releasing Omnilarity.
Yeah, just kind of
seeing it, like seeing our music actually out of,
because seeing people from different countries who don't speak the same language you do, saying that your album's like a masterpiece, saying that your album is really good, saying that whether or not this band sounds like popular death metal bands or whatever, it's still a really great album. Like, just because it's not the typical and it's not the norm, it's still a great album. I think that's probably the biggest thing we've had.
Yeah, I think I would agree. It's just so cool how we can impact people across the entire globe, and people can
know who we are.
Yeah, we don't know them, they don't know us, and yet somehow our music can kind of have a profound impact on them in whatever way, shape, or form. I think that's the biggest moment, because that, and we recorded Omnilarity in the summer of 2013, and it's almost the summer of 2014, and I think it was just nice to finally kind of get the weight off of our shoulders. Like, it's finally over, let's move on. Like, we can move on to bigger and better things.
And the song Omnilarity was written like November 2012. Like,
yeah, so that's easily the oldest song. Yeah, so it's I think it was just cool that we had a lot of drama at that time, and we had a lot of things that were left unsaid, and certain things some things weren't communicated right, and I think releasing Omnilarity, finally finishing it and just getting it out there, kind of just released the tension, and it's just better to move on to bigger and better things, essentially.
I think it's the same as it's always been. There's good bands, and then there's bad bands you don't like. In the age that we're in, with stuff like YouTube and Bandcamp and websites like, the one we're doing this interview for, the Core Brutality, it's just really easy to find bands. To where I'm pretty sure, like in the 80s and stuff, like you'd have to go to shows all the time. And again, that kind of hurts, because there's people who would rather sit there and listen to your stuff on YouTube than go see you live. But that's just it. There's a lot more metal bands, and that's a good thing, and that just makes the level of competition more prevalent, because there's more people. You have to fight your way now, more than ever probably.
Yeah.
So,
especially since then, like you can download albums, like you have to actually be good to be something, or be incredibly lucky.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I think metal's a very young genre. It's not even 50 years old yet. So I think, what jazz has been around for over 100 years. So I think, metal still has a lot of growing to do as a genre. Just whether it's, again, death metal or progressive metal or any metalcore. I mean, I think there's still going to be a lot of room for growth and room for expansion. And I think metal is somehow, I believe that metal is going to continually get better. It's just going to get better, as in it's probably going to get heavier, it's going to get lower, it's going to get more brutal, it's going to get more technical, more melodic, depending on what genre you're playing in when it comes to metal. I think there's still a lot of progress that's going on for the genre, I think.
Yeah, and that's something that we like with our music, and every time we release something, it's not the same. Everything we're ever going to release, we don't want to do the same CD.
Yeah, we don't want to duplicate ourselves because it's kind of boring. Like we're always progressing as people and as musicians, so like we're not always going to play the same thing. Essentially, we're always going to keep striving to do different things and challenging ourselves, whether it comes to playing a really hard riff or just playing genres of music that we feel that we're really into at the time.
One thing that bothers me about the current state of metal is it's really easy to be your own producer and stuff, and that's great. Like, that's what we do, and we support that. Do everything you can, learn everything you can, but don't use those things as a crutch. If you can't play a riff, don't speed it up in the studio, don't slow it down. Like,
Yeah.
if you can't do it, then you can't do it. Just practice.
Yeah, it needs to be genuine.
Yeah.
It can't be something that's fake. It's kind of the same with Substance, with bands that talk about certain things, or they claim that they're Satanists, or that they have the pentagram in their logo, and then when
Or
you
even
really
if you
ask them,
cross.
yeah, the same thing. When you ask them, it's like, oh, it's just a gimmick, or it's just something to scare people. It's like I don't know. I don't dig stuff like that because it's
Not everyone's Venom Slayer.
yeah. I mean, I don't totally dig that. It's kind of false advertising or false substance, I guess. Like I like bands who are genuine as people in their lyrics and in their music. So I don't particularly like when people do that, but
If you're going to talk about something, you should be what you talk about.
yeah, exactly.
Even if you're playing.
Yeah.
At one point in time, when we had 3 guitar players, we were in the car, and I had said, "Oh, we should name the band this," and Omni was in that. And then someone else, a former member of the band, said, "We should name the band Singularity," and no one really liked either of the two. And I kind of just sat there with it, and I just put the two together, just Omnilarity. And it was like floating around for a bit, and then
Yeah.
once we actually sat there with it and made definitions for it and
Yeah.
and added substance to it, and
Once we developed substance to it,
and
it made
put
sense.
meaning into it, it made all the sense. And when in stuff like this, like we kind of like jokingly agreed a long time ago that the only time that we'll ever tell you what omnilarity means is if you personally ask us. So
Yeah, I think that's
you have to come see us.
Yeah, it's
and ask us.
just something that I think it invokes a sort of curiosity. It does have meaning because it floated around for months before we really were like, oh, okay, let's assign substance to it. Like it was almost like we couldn't come up with any other better name, and we always
It wasn't genuine. It was
Yeah.
It was just a word.
It was supposed to be an album title actually, but then we were kind of like, you know what, this name's cool, but there's no substance to it. And then I remember when me and Duke talked about it for a really long time, and we developed a definition for it, and then like all these different kinds of ways you can view omnilarity. That's when we were like, okay, you know what, this name has substance, it has something to it, so let's just stick with this name.
So if you
That's
want to know what
pretty much
omnilarity means, come ask us.
In real life, not on the internet.
Constant progression. Never hearing the same thing twice, hopefully.
Just always getting better, always challenging ourselves to be better.
We want to, everything we do, like I said earlier, I don't want to do the same CD twice. We don't want to do an Ameliorate Part 2. We don't want to do the EP that we did Part 2. We want to constantly be working. I don't want to be the band that takes 2 years or 4, 5, 10 years to release an album. Like, I think we've all kind of talked about it. Like, we want to put out, or at least try to put out something every year.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily even have to be like Ameliorate. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be metal every song. Like we've talked about doing CDs where they're very void of pretty much most of the things that we're probably going to be known for.
Yeah, just as people have different personalities and different traits, and there's different emotions within someone, that's what this band is. There's going to be different traits, there's going to be different emotions, there's going to be different sides to it. To say that we're not going to stick to one thing is not necessarily true, because at the heart we're a metal band, and we'll always come back to that. We just won't ever put out the same CD twice, or at least try not to. A week ago, we just released our debut album, Omnilarity. You could go download that on Bandcamp and any other website you want.
Pretty much.
And this year, we're going to try and release 2 more EPs. We're shooting for one in the summer, anywhere in there, and possibly one in the winter or late fall. So there's not going to be no breathing room.
Yeah, it's always just constant work. But
Except for when we break up, then we don't work.
What you see now, Ameliorate and all this work and ideas and stuff like that, it's never going to stop. So that's what's going to be going on in the future. It's just constant music, constant writing. Hopefully we could get some more strategic shows and play on stuff like that. Or like we said before, if you're our friends, we'll play with you too.
yeah, hopefully we add more members, but if not, you know, we've always talked about having 3 guitar players and 2 vocalists and a full-time keyboard person. But I don't know.
Best.
Yeah, I think as of right now we're kind of in a good state because it's just the 3 of us and we all know each other really well. We know how we write with each other. There's no hiding. There's no excommunication. Like we all know. we all expect a certain amount from each other, whether it's musically or personally. So I think now it's just 3 of us. There's a lot less to deal with emotionally and it's just going to keep getting better. I think we have so much more breathing room to do better and bigger things constantly. So.
We have those social media things. We got Instagram, we got Facebook, we got Bandcamp.
SoundCloud.
Yeah, we have SoundCloud. Our album's up for free for download on plenty of sites.
Yeah, just download it. Just download it.
Don't care where.
Look out. We're going to try and get on more shows, more strategic shows.
Bigger shows with bigger bands, with bands that we actually fit in at least somewhat.
Look out for the 2 EPs that are going to be coming out this year, along with Ameliorate that came out last week.
We're pretty active on Facebook, so if you guys like what you hear, feel free to like us on Facebook and kind of just message us. Yeah, we're not a fake band profile or anything like that, so we'll answer. If you guys have questions, we'll answer them for sure.